Welcome to The Truth Within, a weekly reflection for Friday, the 16th of April. So before we get going this week, I just want to clarify the understanding of a term that I use quite often on the website, and that is this idea of awakening. What do I actually mean when I'm talking about going through an awakening process? Now, it's not a completely tangible thing because it's a little bit like trying to describe being in love. And that's very similar to the awakening process. For those that have gone through an awakening, it's very easy to understand what that means and what that entails. But to contextualize it to people that haven't gone through that same process, it's very difficult. Having an awakening opens you up to this incredible perception, this connection to Creator and to Source, to this oneness of all things. At the same time, it makes you aware of that pervasive evil that's in the world and that influence that's trying to capture and derail people. And a part of going through that awakening process is that discernment, understanding what is evil, what is manipulation, and seeing the coercion that's unfolding firsthand. That's the whole reason the platform exists in the first place, to bring people back to spirituality or spiritual awareness, and not to live in this fear-based, fear-mongering society that we're being bombarded with every single day. Because at the end of the day, we're all going through this process and we're all going through this journey. And all I can do is present the information to help guide you in making those choices that will be beneficial for you as a human being and as a spiritual being. And what that'll lead me into is an article that I put up today, actually. So the article was entitled Beyond the Information War, and it was posted by wakingtimes.com. So I just want to read a little excerpt from that. For most people, it's just too much to bear, I get it. It's often easier to live in the delusion, it's less frustrating. We have so much on our plates already. Let's go along to get along. But it's such a magnificent paradox. If instead we choose directly to confront the darkness, to look right at it without blinking, then bring it into light and deal with it properly, we would actually have a chance of surviving it. If we don't, we're doomed. He then goes on to quote from the Gospel of Thomas. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. I've heard Jordan Peterson say that the most challenging thing to do every day is telling the truth, because there is almost always short-term gain in a comfortable lie, whereas the truth almost always carries with it the risk of not getting what you want. I think he's right, and our world has become so complex and so fast-paced that ignoring and avoiding the truth has become a type of survival mechanism for the times. But as above, so below, as within, so without, what are you hiding from yourself? If we choose to look at our own darkness and understand our own delusions and find ways out of our destructive habits and patterns, then we'd still have a chance of living an extraordinary life in these remarkably unstable times. If we do not work to acknowledge and root out our fears, insecurities, doubts, prejudices, patterns, programs, traumas, then we won't be able to handle what's coming at us. It'll be too much for us to handle. After 10 years as a publisher, editor and writer in the independent media, I sense now that we've reached a breakaway point. The trains have left the station. Those who believe in the illusion are fortifying their commitment to the illusion, and those who see through it are fortifying themselves for the struggle of their lives. There are those that seek truth and those who suppress truth, those who want more control and those who want to be left alone, those who demand obedience and those who revere individualism, those who wish to silence others and those that wish to freely express. Which are you? It's a really good article if you've read it. It only went up on the website today, and this really speaks to empowering yourself through taking on that fear. Bring forth all of the knowledge, make the best decisions from it. And like he says in the article, this becomes especially hard for those that are very invested in the illusion. Because if we're able to see through the illusion, we're able to navigate these fear-based situations with a different sense of perception. Because fear can close us down, and what we want to do is maintain, as I say in my outros, an open heart and an open mind so that we can perceive and receive. And that's really key to kind of navigating these difficult situations. But this is something that was spoken about by Jesus in the Bible. There's a story of a rich man coming to Jesus, asking how he can guarantee his place in heaven and in the kingdom of God. So just to pick this up from the Bible, Mark 10:21, it says, Jesus looked at him and loved him. One thing you lack, he said. Go sell everything you have and give it to the poor. Then you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me." At this, the man's face fell. He went away sad because he had great wealth. Jesus looked around and said to his disciples, "How hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of God." So that really speaks to people being invested in this illusion and how difficult it is for them to see past that. And in a roundabout way, this is kind of what's written about in another article that went up today, entitled "Eliminating Attachment and Aversion to Experience Peace." And this is talking about some of the teachings of Buddhism and of the Buddha. The excerpt reads, "We put so much time and effort craving and pursuing things we think will make us happy, we hardly leave any time to cultivate the real causes of happiness and peace. As Lama Yishi once said, if we pursued enlightenment with the same enthusiasm as we pursue our hobbies, we'd all be awakened in no time." This also speaks to the ideas we were talking about last week around gratitude, in understanding that what you have is enough and being grateful for what you're surrounded with. And we don't need to be so heavily invested in the illusion, because that can be a detriment to our spiritual growth. So the final thing I want to talk about, which kind of ties in with everything that I've spoken about in this reflection, is, does my life have a purpose? And this was a short blog post that I put up in the middle of the week. It's nothing too in-depth, but it just speaks to a visualization that I had when I was kind of pondering this question about purpose and about the impact that we have as individuals in this experience. Halfway through that article, I posed the question, is my experience insignificant? So I wrote, I once asked God this question, and instantly upon asking, I found my conscious awareness went rushing into a visualization of the answer. I was presented with an image of a vast almighty desert, huge and dominating in its presence, before swooping down to see a single grain of sand laying on the desert floor. I heard, "You are the grain of sand, insignificant, yes. Without this single grain of sand, the desert would still be a desert. Yet the desert is nothing but grains of sand." And as suddenly as it began, my vision ended. I knew instantly what that meant, that without those seemingly insignificant grains, there would be no desert at all. Rumi put it another way, you are not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a drop. In one sense, it's easy to fall victim to the idea of being insignificant. However, without us, people, humanity, the vast array of uniqueness, vision, creativity, thoughts, ideas, perspectives, there would be no experience at all. And that's what makes us extremely significant. So I go on to speak about perspective and finding your purpose within your unique position, because you are uniquely you. You were born in the place that you were born, at the time that you were born at, in the culture that you were born into, and have gone through the experiences that only you have gone through as an individual. And it's important that we find a sense of purpose, because we are all here participating, and even doing nothing is a choice. And so it's important that we participate in a meaningful way, because what we do here and the impact that we have on others, it all matters. And this goes back to talking about the illusion. When we finally realise that death is not the end, and what really matters in this experience is the choices that we made, how we cultivated our merits and our virtues, the things that you stand for, and the meaning that you give here to your time in this reality. And that fundamentally is the most important part. So that'll do it for this week, but I hope you're enjoying the content that we're putting out on the platform. Like I said, there's still much to share in the coming future. And in the meantime, as always, keep an open heart and an open mind so that you can be open to perceive and receive all the goodness the universe is trying to throw at you. And I shall catch up with you next week. Have a good weekend, and I shall speak to you soon.